4, 3, 2, 1.
There it goes.
Lift off of Antares NG-12 mission.
Whoa.
Wow.
There's a sound. Ben Pierce of the Rosa Tracker. It's about 4 o'clock in the morning here, and I have a bit of a confession. You see, I've been a fan of space and space exploration pretty much my entire life, but I've never actually seen a rocket launch. And if all goes according to plan, that's going to change hopefully this weekend. I've never even been to a launch complex, but I'm on my way to Wallops Island, which is in Virginia, the state that I live in, although it's a very different part of the state. And we'll see if we can end my streak of never having seen a rocket launch. Let's get started. It's now 6:55 a.m. I've driven most of the way there. I'm at the Salisbury, Maryland supercharger. It's the last spot that I can top off. I could probably make it back to here after I'm done without doing anything, but I figured better safe than sorry, putting a few minutes worth of charge in just to make sure that I can definitely make it back here. So let me talk a little bit about why it is that I haven't seen a launch here. So most of my life I've lived in the middle of the country. I was growing up in Kansas, Oklahoma. I did live sometime in Arizona. For whatever reason, I didn't realize that Vandenberg was a potential launch site, although it's not always the best spot to see launches from. It's very often foggy, and for instance, the InSight mission launched from there. It was completely, totally pitch dark, and you couldn't actually see anything. Well, there's 4 sites that you can see a launch from the United States. There's Cape Canaveral in Florida. There's Wallops Island in Virginia. There is Vandenberg in California, and there's also Kodiak Island in Alaska. Alaska doesn't do a whole lot of launches. Vandenberg doesn't do a lot of launches. Wallops Island is interesting. It's in Virginia, which is actually the state that I live in, although, interestingly enough, I have to go through Maryland to get here, unless I'm wanting to take the long way around. But it only currently has about 2 or 3 orbital launches per year. It does a lot of suborbital stuff. That may change when Rocket Lab gets to building their launch pad out here, which they do intend to do. We'll see how that goes. And then Florida, it's just a really tough trip. You know, it's like 13, 14 hours away from my home right now. And you never know if the launch is actually going to happen on time. And for whatever reason, I've just never managed to make it through. But I had the opportunity to apply to the NASA social media program, and they gave me the credentials, so I get to go take a tour of all of the NASA sites today, and then tomorrow, if all goes according to plan, see the launch. So it's a lot of fun. Hopefully everything will work out, and we'll see how things go from there. Here I am at the NASA Wallops Visitor Center. We'll be going inside shortly, and I'll get checked in and start to begin to take a tour. It should be some fun, but last time here from the car for the time being. After the experiments have been performed by the astronauts that are required, will the oven be available for their own personal experimentations?
Well, I don't think they're going to have an opportunity to just kind of do their own experiments, but it is something that we are planning to use for future investigations as well. So, of course, if crew members have an idea, they could certainly bring that to us, and we can certainly look at implementing that as well.
They just don't have raw ingredients.
That too.
A couple more in the back.
So, I've had my time here so far. I've spent most of the morning. We went through a press briefing. We saw an example of the cookies being made on the International Space Station, and hopefully everything will go well, and the astronauts may even get to share a couple of the cookies that are baked. According to them, they get to dispose of them how they please. And it'll be really interesting to hear. And it's pretty cool to be invited to get to ask some questions. I asked a couple of questions at the press briefing, and to see some of the really cool science that they're doing in the space station. There's a lot more that happens there than even I realized, and I tend to follow this stuff pretty close. Stuff from how we understand the universe, black matter, black energy type of questions that are, or dark matter energy types of questions that are being asked, to how do you keep astronauts alive on a journey to Mars. The space station's helping us to figure that kind of stuff out. So it's pretty neat, and to hear all of this kind of science that's being done is really cool. And there are even some fun things like this rocket here. This is a Nike booster. It has an upper stage that you can't see that is used as a sounding rocket, so they can launch these payloads to touch space and do some really quick in situ studying of the background of the universe, really. And these have been used for a long time. I guess NASA Wallops has launched more of these than any other rockets that have been launched anywhere else. So there's been tons and tons of them. But this Nike rocket has an interesting history too. The thing I know about it is used in ballistic missile defense. You see, they would take one of these boosters and use it to launch a small nuclear weapon to blow up and hopefully keep a larger nuclear weapon from blowing up. So kind of a fun little bit of history. I'm here on the observation deck at the NASA Wallops Visitor Center. It's basically the roof of it. And you can see some of the cool stuff around here. Now, you're not going to see everything, but I can see an airport here with a whole bunch of tracking dishes that they use for experimental aircraft. Somewhere back in this direction is the launch pad. I don't know exactly where it is, but you can see it. If you were on the top of here, it'd be a pretty good area to watch the launch from, probably. Although, tomorrow I should be even closer than this, which will be really exciting. The social media experience is really interesting. I'm surrounded by a bunch of people who are definitely not as big of space nerds as I am. And yet it catches their interest, and they're coming here, they're visiting, and it's pretty neat to see this opportunity that they're all taking and being able to get something out of, and see the excitement of space exploration through many people. It's not just a few select people, but it has broad appeal, and it's pretty neat. You know, I was in the media presentation here recently, and I feel like I have more in common with more of the traditional media that cover an event like this than most of the people that are part of the social media, but it's still pretty neat, and I'm certainly learning a lot. So I finished all of the touring of Wallops Island that I'm going to have, and I have seen some pretty neat stuff. I've seen some of the antennas that they use to communicate with the Apollo missions. I've seen some balloons that get to be an enormous size in the sky, something that you can see resolved even when they're 20 miles high. It's just incredibly large. It's amazing. And all kinds of other neat stuff. I saw some sounding rockets that were being built. It's a pretty interesting facility, and, well, while seeing the rocket and stuff this morning was cool, and seeing some of the stuff was neat, it's definitely time to actually see the rocket launch itself. And so I'm looking forward to tomorrow morning, and hopefully it'll be pretty neat, and we'll see how things go. But right now it's about 7:30. I'm probably going to get to bed early. I had to be up, as mentioned, very early yesterday and didn't sleep as well as I should. But yeah, we'll see. I'll go to bed fairly soon. But we'll see how tomorrow goes, and looking very much forward to it. Well, it's about 6:40 in the morning, T-minus 3 hours and 17 minutes, if I'm looking at my math right. I am getting ready to check out of my hotel and start heading down to the launch site. I'm not actually supposed to be there for another hour, but I'm not sure how traffic's going to be, and it's about 20 minutes to get there. And I'm glad I left a little bit early, because for the very first time today, there is actually frost here and totally surrounding my car, so I had to go and get it all cleared up. And yeah, a little bit of an unexpected surprise, but the first time it happened this year, so it was bound to happen. It shouldn't affect the flight weather at all, but it's going to be a little bit chilly, I have a feeling, and I don't have the thickest of coats, so yeah, we'll see how this goes. But I am really excited. It's kind of surreal. I didn't sleep as well as I would like, although I slept better last night than I did the night before. Night before was a little bit crazy, especially having to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Anyways, here I am headed off, and we'll see how things go. So it's about 7:05. It turns out that it really doesn't take a whole lot of time to get there, and there actually isn't that much traffic. I'm about 2 miles away from the visitor center, which is arguably the best spot to watch if you're just general public in the area. They have a nice little bleacher system set up, and yeah, but there's not as much traffic as I kind of expected. I thought that this would be a big deal. I'm sure there will be a ton of traffic here coming, but it only took a couple minutes longer to get this far than it did yesterday, so far so good. Just hanging out here, waiting for the bus to show up to take us over to the launch site, the media site that I'll be only 2 miles away from this rocket. Be really exciting, and we'll see how things go from there. So I'm here at the viewing site that we get to see. You can see some of the tracking hardware here in the background. There's dishes that are all around here. Let's see if you can see some of the tracking dishes that they'll use to watch the launch. I have my camera set up a little ways down. I won't get a great picture from this cell phone, but that's why I brought my DSLR camera. Of course, I'm mostly focusing on watching this with my own eyes. You can see a launch anytime, but actually seeing it, you got to be here in person to do, so I'm going to focus on doing that. Still trying to decide what to do, but it's just striking me. I'm actually here. I'm actually watching a fueled rocket on the launch pad, getting ready to head to the International Space Station. And it's crazy. Something I've wanted to do for a very, very long time. 25 years or longer. And today it's finally going to happen. And it's pretty amazing. We're close. I can actually see the rocket standing up. Get a decent shot of it with my 200 millimeter lens, which is not great, but it's, something. Hoping for a very nominal launch here. So here it is. You hear Countdown Net going on. I'm here with the press site. You can see the rocket here in the distance. Well, you can't see it, but I can. And everything's just kind of waiting for the calm. We've got T-minus about 57 minutes or so, and they're starting to fuel the rocket, and it's kind of coming along pretty well. You can see all of the press people here lined up with their cameras, including myself. Got a couple of them out there and just waiting for things to go. So it's T-minus 16 minutes or so. We're all just kind of waiting here, getting ready for the launch. Everyone's really excited and hoping for a nominal launch. And NRL came by and was talking about some of the CubeSats they have on there. You usually don't think of them talking very much, but it's kind of interesting to see them talking about one of their payloads for once, and just nervously waiting. This is happening. Should start to see flames soon.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
There it goes.
Lift off of Antares NG-12 mission.
Whoa.
Wow.
There's a sound. That's crazy, it's pointed right at us. Now I can see smoke. Huh.
Is that normal?
It's nominal. Well, it launched. It's definitely kind of surprising. You could definitely feel it when it was in the height of a vibration, although it didn't last very long, and you could see it for some time further, but still trying to decide what I think of it. But it's a neat experience, to say the least. And wow. Just wow. Have to think more on this as time comes, but as it stands right now, the spacecraft made it to orbit and everything looked great and everything looked nominal. And now we're getting back in the bus and go from here. So I'm sitting here at the supercharger in Salisbury, the exact same stall that I came in, although when I came here earlier, it was completely empty, and today there's actually 5 of the 6 stalls as I speak are in use, so it's a little bit different, but I suspect a lot of them were coming down to launch like I did. Having some time to process, it was definitely quite the trip. It's definitely worth seeing, and I'm looking forward to seeing other bigger rockets. Definitely something worth seeing at least once. And I'm very glad that I came. I may or may not come in the future. It was pretty cool to see, especially from the press area, and seeing everyone set up with their video equipment and all kinds of stuff. I think I know what I'm going to do for this video too, so that should be a lot of fun, and we'll see how things go.
Oh yeah, look at that. Roughly 100 seconds to make up.
Wow, that's incredible.
That is sick. All engine parameters remain nominal. Just passing 100,000 feet.
100,000 feet.
100 feet per second squared.
Gotta love the units. 100 feet per second squared. Who talks that way now?
Enabling velocity steering. Engines remain stable. 1 minute to meet up. Engines remain at 100%. Attitude is nominal. BN04 and BN5 activated. Power nominal. Just passing 200,000 feet.
40 miles. Not quite in space yet, but it's getting pretty close.
ESS disabled. Stage 1 separation. ACS enabled. Attitude now.
Hopefully it tests. Oh, it worked.
Oh yeah. I didn't hear the second stage started, but
Stage 1 ignition time projected at 8:45. Bearing separation.
okay.
Interstage separation.
Oh, there's a delay. That's interesting. I didn't know that. That's a long delay between Miko and. That's like what, 15 seconds? Yeah, you really can't.
Stage 2 CDC is nominal.
I mean, you could at night.